Welcome to Section 6, Video 5, allowing the player to use our interaction system. In this video, we are going to allow our player to use the interaction system via a button press. So first what we're going to do is open up our Blueprints folder inside of the Gameplay Elements folder, Interactables, and we're going to open up our Door Interact BP, select our static mesh, and inside the static mesh, double click on SM Door, or the actual icon, to open it. And we don't have any collision for this static mesh, so we're just going to go to the collision tab in the top and add box simplified collision. And there we go. And if you can't see it, you can select collision and simple collision and it will show up. And let's save that. And we can close this. As well as our character, let's place him into the level, and let's reorient him by opening him up, and let's move him or rotate him 90 degrees. So -90, so he's facing the correct way. We can close these two tabs now, and let's add our character's functionality. Inside the C++ classes, in our characters folder, select our player character, and let's open that up. Inside of the header file under the protected category, we're going to add in a variable. Here we are declaring our interaction distance, which is how far we can reach to interact with something. Under the private category, we've added the interact function, which will handle calling onInteract for anything that is written within our interaction distance in front of us. We are going to bind this to our interact key action, which we set in the input setting of our project settings. Let's add our definition, and let's go into the source file. Inside of our constructor, we are just setting the default value of our interaction distance to 240 units. Inside of our setUpPlayerInput component function, we are binding the interact action to our interact function for when the button is pressed. So inside of our interact function, the way we're going to interact with anything is by shooting a line trace similar to how we've done it before, by starting from our camera location and then in the forward direction of our camera at a distance of the interaction distance. Then we set up a struct to see if any collision objects are to be ignored, which will be the player, which is us, and then we fire the trace to see if we hit anything, and if we did hit something, then we save that hit actor, get its class, and check if it implements the interface, which is our interaction interface. If it does implement the interface, then we attempt to cast for it and save it within an if statement. If the cast succeeded, then we use the saved interface to call the onInteract function. If the cast failed, then we call a generic version of the function, which requires us to input the actor that we're calling it on. In both cases, we pass in this actor for the interactor. The reason for why we cast is because it's checking to see if the player's class inherits from the function in C++. If it's blueprint based, then we won't have it inherited from the interface since it fundamentally can't inherit from that. So we check for the C++ layer first. If it does implement it, then call that function since it can call the blueprint version as well, and this is because it is a blueprint native event function. Let's save all, and let's go back into Unreal and compile and test this. Now that we've finished compiling, let's test this by hitting the play button. Let's walk over to our door and hit the E key to interact. And it rotated 90 degrees, and if we hit it again, it rotates back. And as you can see in the output log at the bottom, it's printing out a message saying interaction called from player character, which is what we want when we call the player or parent function. And then if we interact with the cube, it bounces up and down and says it's happy to see us. And if we talk to the person, he looks at us, should be saying something. It's on the ground. My bad. That's why it's not showing up, because it was below us. So if you want to fix this, we can drag this in for our message location and get component or get world location and use that as our text location. Compile, save, and then we play, we walk over to him, and he says it where his face is. In the next and final video, we'll be building our level and packaging our project for shipping.